Welcome to our learning. Today we're going to be learning about Shabbos, and Be'ezus Hashem will continue. So Shabbos is everybody's favorite day of the week, and we've always through the past year we've spent quite a bit of time on the different Yomim Tovim, and I'm so excited today to be talking about the Yom Tov, the special time, the highlight that comes every single week. Okay, I hope everyone has the notes, because what I did today is I put actually the words that we're going to be doing in the text. Instead of having this complicated text to follow, I typed it up. So I hope there's no typos. But yeah, if you could follow along in the text, here we go. Let's jump in. There's a story in the Gemara, says in the discussion about the halachos of Shabbos, it describes what happens if somebody gets lost in the forest and doesn't know what time of day it is, what time of the week it is, what time of the month it is. What do they do about Shabbos if they're existing alone outside of civilization and they don't have a calendar? What's the halacha? What do they do? And the Gemara describes that they start counting from that first day. That day becomes number one. From whenever they remember, they become aware. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then the seventh day is Shabbos. And because they're not, and they keep Shabbos on the seventh day, and because they're not sure of exactly what is, what day is the real Shabbos, there are certain restrictions and certain guidelines of what is permitted to do throughout the rest of the week. It's a whole discussion. Anyways, so the Heilige Ruzhiner is a very big tzaddik, one of the earliest Hasidic masters. When he was a child and he was learning this teaching in the Gemara, he had a very big question. He's like, I don't understand. So if someone's lost on Shabbos and they don't have a calendar, what's the problem? And his teacher says, what do you mean, what's the problem? They're like, then you don't know when Shabbos is. And he says, but you go out every morning and you see when is Shabbos. And obviously the Ruzhiner, and he had such a hard time understanding it. If I remember correctly, and I'm not mixing this up with two different stories, he was asking questions, and I think he asked, and his teacher finally gave him a slap because his teacher didn't understand what he's talking about. And he came home and he told his father what happened, that he didn't understand something, and his teacher slapped him because he kept asking, and the teacher thought he was playing around. And then his father said, what didn't you understand? And he explained to his father what he didn't understand. And then his father said, yeah, because most people don't go out and smell and feel and touch and literally experience Shabbos in the ear. His teacher thought he's like playing games. Like, what are you doing? What are you saying? But most of us are not like the big tzaddik, the Heilige Ruzhiner. And when we wake up on Shabbos morning, if the alarm clock rings, we have to remember not to press the snooze button, right? It's very easy to forget. There's no difference in the atmosphere unless we establish that difference. And so what this teaching of the Baal HaTanya is going to give us insight and appreciation of actually what is the spiritual quality of every single Shabbos. And I know when I learned this for the first time, I woke up on Shabbos morning, because I learned it Friday night. I woke up on Shabbos morning and I could feel it in the air, because knowing has that ability to do that to us. So let's jump into the text, okay? This is from a Maimer, Shuva Yisrael, which is Lekutei Torah Jerusalem L'Shabbos, Jerusalem L'Shabbos Shuva. It's excerpted from that Maimer. And we start from the part in the Maimer that talks about Shabbos, okay? So Hine, b'Shabbos ksiv, ki sheishes yamim asa Hashem, asa v'gomer. About Shabbos, it says that Hashem created the world for 6 days. Ki sheishes yamim asa, for 6 days Hashem created, uvayom hashvi shavas, and on the 7th day Hashem rested. Okay, ulachayra einay muvan. Seemingly, these words are very difficult to understand. We can't understand these words. Why can't we understand it? Because shaharei hu yisbarech mechadesh liyos hashpa'os v'hamshachas hachayos, because Hashem renews the world every single day, every single minute, every single hour. There's a constant flow of Hashem's energy into this world. This is a very primal teaching of the Baal Shem Tov, that Hashem didn't just create the world and walk away and leave it to, function on its own. Hashem didn't just create the world and create powers within the world that could function on their own. Every single force of energy, the sun, the moon, the stars, the fact that the earth grows, the fact that the water flows, every single fact of nature is constantly renewed and animated by Hashem within this very moment of time. And if Hashem would, if Hashem would momentarily stop, press the pause button on this flow of energy, the world would return to its state of utter nothingness. And so that's why even on Shabbos, we say, when we're saying the brachas and we're davening, in the words of Birchas Shema, one of the lines that we say is Hamachadesh b'tuvay b'chol yom tamid ma'aseh bereishis. We bless Hashem, who renews in His goodness, renews the world every single day. Tamid ma'aseh bereishis, constantly recreating the world. So what does it mean when we say that Hashem rests on Shabbos? Certainly, Hashem never takes a break. Hashem doesn't go to sleep. Chas v'shalom. Hine la yanam v'la yishan shema Yisrael. Hashem, the guardian of Yisrael, never ever rests, never slumbers, never snores. Chas v'shalom. Right. So certainly, the word rest has a different meaning in the context of Shabbos. What does it mean when we say Hashem rested? What is actually going on with that? What's up with that, right? What does it mean when we say that Hashem rested? So what the Baal HaTanya is going to teach us is that there are three different forms of self-expression. And what Hashem did on Shabbos, what Hashem does every single Shabbos, is throughout the week, Hashem relates to the world through one mode of expression, through the expression of action. And on Shabbos, Hashem relates to the world through the expression of thought. But before we get to that, let's first explore what the difference between all those expressions are. But we're going to do that in the words of the Baal HaTanya. Okay, so I'm up to number 2. Acha inyan dechsiv ki sheishes yamim asa. To understand this, we're going to, it says, let's refer to the pasuk that says, Kisheishes Yamim Asa, for in 6 days Hashem created. The key word here is Asa. Hashem created. Asa Daika, that's the key word. Asa is the key word. Dahainu, Masha Nespashet Benim Shachachayis, Al Yedei Bechinas Asiyah. What does it mean? Kisheishes Yamim Asa? It means that the energy and the flow that's drawn down, that Hashem's energy that flows into the world on Shabbos throughout the week, throughout the 6 days of the week, come through the category of Asiya. They're in the category of the self-expression called action. Now, to appreciate what this means, I don't know this myself. I learned this from the Sefer Hasidus Mubarak. But over there, it gives a long explanation about what the difference between each of these three modes of expression are. Okay, so if I have an idea that I want to share with you, and that idea is in my mind, okay, how does it come to, or that I want to create? If I have a vision, okay, how does that come to be? So first, I have an idea. Now, thought is me expressing my insight and my idea to myself. That's what thought is. If you think about something, what you're doing is you're developing your own understanding out of that initial flash of inspiration. You had this flash of inspiration, or you had a desire, right? Thought is you expressing it to yourself. It's locked within yourself. Nobody knows what's going on in your mind, right? But it is a form of expression. It's an expression between me and myself. Dibor is when I give voice to that idea and I express it outside of myself. I give it words, I give it the shape and the category and the definition of words, and it comes outside of me. Action is when I take it even further from me and I put it into practice. Now, what we're talking about is self-expression. Thought is me to myself. Dibur, speech, is me to other people. Action is me to the world. Action is I can do something and walk away, and it remains anonymous. If you hear my voice, you know it's me. But an action I could do and walk away, and nobody will know who put the cup of water there. Nobody will know who spilled the drink. Nobody will know who planted the tree. You planted it and you walked away. You remain anonymous. The action remains alive and you remain anonymous. Speech, when I'm talking to you, you see me, you hear my voice, you know it's coming from me. Thought, you don't even know it's me because you don't know it at all. Okay, so we're looking at this in two ways. One is from the perspective of me. My thoughts are the most intimate part of me. It's the most connected to me, whereas action is the most separate from me. And we're looking at it also from the other way. If I want to get to know you, if I look at something, a cake that you made, I don't know anything about you except that you made a good cake. If I hear your words and the things that you say or the words that you write, I get to know you on a much deeper level. Right? Now I know more of your personality. I know more of your ideas. I know your thought process. I know your challenges, your struggles. But then there's something that I still don't know about you, and that is your thoughts. I don't know you on the level of your thoughts, but sometimes you might share your very deepest thoughts with a very close friend and really allow them to enter your mind, or you enter their mind, and then you know them very, very, very intimately. So what's the difference between each of these? In the place where Hashem is, it could be that I'm gonna repeat this later on in the text, but let's discuss it here now. What does it mean when we say Hashem relates to the world in the way of asiya, in the way of action? What that means is that in this world, it's possible for us to experience ourselves as something separate from Hashem, because action is that kind of thing. Action is something that we do, and it remains outside of ourselves for the duration of that action. As long as the action is impactful, it's separate from us. It's got nothing to do with us. We did it and we walk away. So action represents a mode of self-expression where separation is the most pronounced. It's where it's very pronounced that this thing is separate from me. If you do something and you walk away, right? That thing still is, but you're separate from it. So when we say Hashem created the world in a way of asiya, we can now understand how it's possible. How is it possible for Hashem to be totally fueling our energy, totally fueling our life, totally fueling every ounce of the world, and yet we feel as if we're something separate from Hashem? The reason is because Hashem relates to the world in a way of action. Hashem relates to the world in a way of asiya. The energy of Hashem as it exists in the world is in the category of action, which means Hashem allows us to experience ourselves as something separate from Hashem. Okay, that's the impact of the fact that Hashem creates the world and fuels the world throughout the week from the place of action. I'm going to move on to number 3. Aval b'Shabbos, Shabbos. But on Shabbos, Hashem rests. Shabbos means he rested. Shabbos is day of rest. But Shabbos, what happened on Shabbos? Shabbos, Hashem rested. Mibechinas hislapshus bebechinas asiya. On Shabbos, Hashem rests. Hashem no longer descends and contracts his energy down to the concealment of action. V'gam lo nislabish b'bechinas hadibur. I'm on number 4. V'gam lo nislabish b'bechinas hadibur. And on Shabbos, Hashem also rests from enclothing himself in a manner of speech, which are shehem asara mamaras shebehem nivra olam, because we know that Hashem created the world through speech, through the power of speech. 10 utterances. Hashem said, "Yehi are," and there was light. Right? Hashem said, "Let there be light," and there was light. There were 10 such utterances through which Hashem created the world. And on Shabbos, Hashem no longer relates to the world, not in speech and also not in action. And that's why on Shabbos, we refrain from doing action that creates, that makes changes, that develops something new in the world. And we also refrain from weekday speech. Not only do we not do action that is not aligned with the day of rest, with the Shabbos, with the holiness of Shabbos, we also don't even talk about work matters on Shabbos. V'lachein kesiv says that there's a pasuk in Yeshayahu that says, "Mimitzay chefzecha v'daber davar." V'amar Razal, and the Gemara tells us, "Shelo yihya diborcha shel Shabbos." We should not engage in mimitzay chefzecha, when you find something and you'll speak about it, bringing different proofs and verses that express this truth, that on Shabbos we refrain from weekday mundane speech. Not only do we refrain from the action, but we also refrain from speech. Why? Why do we not speak about weekday matters on Shabbos? Because Hashem created us in his image, right? We are likened to Hashem. Lakach tzarech lishbais b'Shabbos. And just as we model Hashem's behavior, we try to, or we are empowered to model Hashem's behavior, like the Gemara tells us, Mahu Racham, just like he is merciful, we want to be merciful. Like he has patience and tolerance, we also want to have that. Right? So Hashem rests on Shabbos. Lakach tzarech lishbais b'Shabbos. So too, we need to rest on Shabbos. Mipnei kivay Shabbos HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because that is when Hashem rests. VaKadosh Baruch Hu shavas mebechinas dibur, and Hashem also rests from speech. Ki sheshes yamim asa hainu al yedei asar mamaris. Indeed, Hashem created the world in 6 days. Asa is an action, but how did Hashem create that action? How did Hashem create that world? Al yedei asar mamaris, through speech, through the power of speech. From Hashem's perspective, there is no difference between speech and action. For us, speech and action are two totally different things. First, I talk about it, then I talk about it, then I talk about it, and then maybe I'll do something about it, right? For Hashem, Baruch, we say in Baruch Sha'amar every day, Baruch Omer V'Oseh. Hashem says and does, and it's one thing. It's not as Hashem says, it creates. So Hashem created the world as an action, but Hashem created it through the power of speech. Ubiyam Hashvi, Shabbos Mayam, and on the 7th day, Hashem rested both from speech and both from action and from speech. So that's where speech comes in. Since we are created in Hashem's image, on Shabbos we rest not just from action, but also from speech. Okay, so if Hashem is not creating the world through action, and Hashem is not creating the world through speech, how does the world exist? How is the world animated? How are the systems of the world running? And the answer is Ella, hislapshus or ein sof baruch hu, the enclothement of Hashem's light, that infinite divine light that animates the world, lahavais ulahachiyos habarum, which gives life and energy, vitality to all of creation. Ulachadish betuvei ma'ayin leish, and it renews the world. And this divine light, the Hashem's infinite light, renews the world with Hashem's goodness from nothing to something every single day, and also on Shabbos. What's the energy on Shabbos? B'Shabbos hu bebechinas hamachshava levada. On Shabbos, Hashem relates to the world. Hashem's energy is enclosed, that infinite light that animates the world comes through, is expressed through and enclosed in the category, something called thought, what we call thought. So there's three modes of self-expression. Throughout the week, Hashem expresses himself, so to speak. Hashem expresses himself, Hashem shines his light and allows his light to flow into the world, but it comes down into a way of action, in a way that we experience ourselves as something, and all of creation screams, I exist. The fact that we see it as something separate, it screams, I exist, I have an identity, I am an entity. And that's because Hashem relates to the world and Hashem expresses himself in a way of action. But on Shabbos, Hashem animates the world through the expression of thought. Now, what does this look like in our personal lives? What does it mean in our personal lives? It means that on Shabbos, we have that ability to lose our ego, to lose that selfhood that's separate from Hashem, and immerse ourselves and experience our oneness with Hashem. There's a good analogy for this, which is brought down in that Sefer, Chassidus Mu'eres, is that what's the relationship between fish and water? What's the relationship between fish and water? Fish depends on water to exist. Fish cannot live outside water. So what's the relationship between fish and water? It's utter, absolute, complete dependency, right? It can't live outside water. And fish are very much aware of this fact. They're very much aware of this truth. Now, what's our relationship with our source of life? Even on a physical level. We're not even talking about the spiritual source of everything, which is Hashem. But our physical sustenance comes from the earth, right? We depend on food to exist. And we are not absolutely aware. A person could jump in the air and not feel like you can separate from, you don't have to be standing on the earth to feel like, oh, I am alive now. Even though my existence, I can't live without food. And all my food comes from the earth, ultimately. Well, today it comes from laboratories, all the chemicals, but our real sustenance comes from the earth. And yet I don't have to be standing on the earth. I could be swimming in the water. And I won't die, chas v'shalom, from being unattached to my source, to the source. A fish that goes on the earth cannot live. A person that goes onto the water could live just fine. You could sail on a boat for weeks and not be right. Our life and not die, chas v'shalom, and not feel even that we're detached from the source of our life. So a fish is dependent on water for its life, and the fish is constantly aware. It never, ever, ever loses sight of its dependency. We lose our awareness. We forget our dependency. We actually, even not just that we forget our dependency, but our true dependency is on Hashem. Not only do we forget that we're dependent on Hashem, we even could mistaken our dependency on people and things. But on Shabbos, and why is that possible? How is it even possible for us to forget, to lose sight of our absolute dependency? When we see that fish, it seems like such common sense. Of course, they can't leave the water because they're going to die, and they know it. Well, we can't leave Hashem. We can't detach from Hashem. We will die. We die if we do. Hashem is our life force. Whether or not we're aware of it, this moment, the fact that we're alive is because Hashem is fueling our existence. And yet we could forget it. Why is that? Why is that? How is it possible? It's because Hashem relates to the world in a way of asiyah. Hashem enables that forgetfulness. Hashem enables us to experience ourselves as separate beings. Why does Hashem do this? We discussed at so many different other times, because Hashem wants us to choose us. Hashem wants us to choose Hashem despite the fact that it's possible to lose that awareness, despite the fact that it seems like we're dependent on other people and on things. Hashem wants us to develop that awareness, to come to that awareness, to discover the light despite the darkness, to discover the truth despite the delusions and the distractions that are inherent in creation. But on Shabbos, something different happens. Every single Shabbos, when the sun, right, as Shabbos enters the world, as we Jewish women are so blessed that we light the candles, we're the ones who actually usher the Shabbos into the world. We bring the Shabbos into the world. And just like we bring the Shabbos, what is the Shabbos? What are we welcoming when we stand in front of those candles and we wave our hands? What are we welcoming into our hearts and into the world? We're welcoming the light of Hashem that's coming from a whole different space. A whole different energy is coming into the world, and it's coming from the world of machshava. It's the energy of Hashem's thought that we are welcoming into the world. And in this space, this energy, well, we still are in a world of Asiya, and that's why we don't automatically, as we bench licht, as we light the Shabbos candles, we don't automatically feel, oh my, now I'm so dependent on Hashem and I have perfect clarity. I am in Hashem's thought. I am one with Hashem. I am inseparable from Hashem. No, we don't have that clarity. Why? Because we're still in Gullus and we still live in this physical earth, but we have a taste of it. And there's a possibility, there's more of a possibility to experience it. And that's why on Shabbos, on a regular weekday, when we daven and we try to, what are we trying to do when we daven? We're trying to pull aside the curtain that obscures Hashem's truth, to pull aside the curtain of Hashem's hiddenness and become aware of Hashem's truth in our lives, in our hearts, and in the world, and our experiences, right? And this is what, on Shabbos, those efforts bear many more fruit. In other words, during the week, you have to daven and really, really concentrate very hard, or really, work hard to quiet so much noise to get to that space of like Hashem's oneness. But on Shabbos, that same effort that we would invest on a weekday, that same effort gives us a closer experience of Hashem. And that's why traditionally Shabbos is a day of reconnection, spending more time with family, spending more time with Hashem, spending more time with our Neshama, because this is the time when we could experience the truth with much less effort than it would take during the week. And traditionally, Hasidim would spend so much time davening. They would daven for hours on Shabbos, or fabraying for many long hours on Shabbos. Why? Because this is the day when our effort to connect with Hashem, to experience our connection, because we're always connected, our effort to experience our oneness, the fact that we're truly inseparable from Hashem, on Shabbos, we experience this in much greater strength. I want to just mention something, because we're all women here, and I want to just broaden this topic to include something that many of us are familiar with. Women are the ones to usher in Shabbos. And we're talking about what is the energy of Shabbos. The energy of Shabbos ultimately is an experienced oneness with Hashem. That is what Shabbos is. During the weekday, we experience separation. And on Shabbos, we experience a taste of oneness. There's more possibility. There's an energy of oneness in the world. Now, Mashiach's, the Geula is known as a time when the whole world will experience and feel that Ein Oid Movade, there is nothing other than Hashem. When Mashiach comes, our dependency on Hashem will be absolutely clear for the whole world to see, right? That is what Mashiach, that's what the days of Mashiach are known as. The Mashiach's arrival, the Geula, is a time when Hashem's presence will be known. We'll all feel our complete oneness with Hashem. We'll know Hashem Echad Ein Oid Movade. Everything in existence will know, and everything will express that truth. So women we are the ones who welcome the Shabbos into our homes, into our hearts, and into the world. We're also with lighting the Shabbos candles, and we are also the ones, according to Kabbalah, that are at the forefront, who take the initiative, who stand on the front lines of welcoming the light of Mashiach, of Mashiach's time, the light of Geula into this world. That experienced oneness with Hashem, we're the ones who bring that energy, that awareness, that truth into the world. How? Through lighting candles, through kindling souls, through inspiring ourselves and each other with the light of Torah and mitzvahs. Okay, so that was a little diversion about women bringing in Shabbos. Let's go back to the text. Okay, I just want to mention one thing that's on the bottom of number 7, and that's the good thing about having notes, is that it says on the notes to discuss the personal experience versus truth. And we've discussed this at other times, but I just want to make it clear. Hashem's presence is always revealed in this. I mean, Hashem's presence is always in this world. Our oneness with Hashem is a constant truth. Our dependency on Hashem is a constant truth. That's the truth. The difference that we experience on Shabbos is the capacity for our experience. It's not the truth. It's our experience of the truth. Because Hashem is here, there, and everywhere, always. We're dependent on Hashem Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Shabbos. The difference is only that during the week, it's harder to experience that truth. And on Shabbos, the energy of the world is such, Hashem relates to the world in such a way that enables us to experience the truth of our oneness with Hashem in a much more tangible, in a more real way. We can experience that more easily, more readily. And of course, to be able to experience, we have to take the time to think about it, to absorb it, to notice it, to embrace it, to welcome it into our hearts. But the fact that it's there is there, whether we are aware of it or not. And I think we become desensitized when we experience Shabbos every week. But many people have shared when they are new to Torah observance, that first time they experience Shabbos, they can literally feel the energy of Shabbos entering the world, because it's a first, and because they can feel that they're not desensitized yet by the constancy of it, by the repetition of it every single week. There's a certain openness to the experience, but the possibility for the experience is there for each and every one of us every single Shabbos. That is the energy of Shabbos that we invite into the world when we light the Shabbos candles. Okay, now this Hashem relating to us in the way, to the world in a way of thought, has another name, okay? And that name is called Olam HaBariah. For those of you who have been with us when the last couple of weeks, when we spoke about how our Neshama comes into the world, first it's Tahar, first it's pure, it's in the world of Atzilus, and then it descends into the world of Bria, and then Yetzira, and then Asir. Remember we said Elikai Neshama Shenasatabi, Tahirahi represents the world of Atzilus, where there is no creation because it's so clear that only Hashem exists. And Bria is the first place where we could experience creation, right? And then Yetzira is where creation gets another form, and Asiya is where we actually, the Neshama enters our body. So now what the Baal HaTanya makes another reference to those worlds. And the Baal HaTanya says that just like there are 4 worlds, right? The first world is pre-creation. The first world is Tahar, like we said last week. The first world, it's the world of emanation. There is no possibility for existence, for outside existence, for any experienced existence outside of Hashem in the world of Atzilus. So that leaves us with 3 other worlds, Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya, which is sometimes abbreviated in Chassidus as Bia, okay? The worlds of Bia, Bria, Yetzira, Asiya, there's 3 we just spoke about 3 modes of self-expression. The 3 modes of self-expression are parallel to the 3 worlds through which Hashem's light comes into the world. So let's go through them and discuss how, and we'll see how Bria is parallel to thought, Yetzira is parallel to speech, and Asiya, which means action, is parallel to action. So in the world of Atzilus, it's godliness himself, the indescribable light of Hashem. And we know that there's even light of Hashem that's even more, that's even above Atzilus, because Atzilus is also a word. So there's Hashem that exists in Atzilus, which Elikus Mamish, actual Hashem. Okay, that is pre-creation. And then we have Bria, which corresponds to the world of Machshava. Okay, in the world of Bria, Hashem has the thought of creation. The thought of creation, there's no experience yet of separation, because remember we said before, thought exists within oneself. My thoughts exist only within me. Thought is very, very one with me. It's inseparable from me. I experience my thoughts only within my own head. Hopefully only within my own head, right? Hopefully I don't impose it on anyone else, but we all experience our thoughts only within our own self. And obviously, Hashem's thought is nothing like ours. But the reason why Hashem uses these words in the Torah is to give us some insight into how he's relating to us in this world. So obviously Hashem's thought is very different from us, but still there's something that we can learn from the fact that we say Hashem relates to the world in a way of thought. So in the world of Bria, that initial stage of creation, Hashem has the thought of creation. And on that level, in the world of Bria, there is no experience of separation yet. There is that possibility, but there's no experience yet of separation. And then we have Yetzira. Yetzira is the second world, and it is the second world of the 3, and it corresponds to speech, to Dibur. Okay, because what is Yetzira? Yetzira is more developed. One second. Bria is thought. It's the thought of creation. It's not no yet experience of separation. It has some beginning of creation. It's the thought. I wrote thought of creation. It's actually the beginning of creation. It relates to thought in the sense that in the world of Bria, there's no experience of separation. I'm sorry, that's a mistake in my notes there. Okay, Yetzira is where creation comes to form. Creation becomes a little bit more developed. And this is comparable to the world of speech, because just like words give shape and form and categories and measure to the ideas, to the thoughts that we have in our minds, right? Words give definition, they give expansion, they give it a color, they give it a size. They develop our ideas with more detail. And that's the world of, and that's why Yetzira, where creation becomes more formed, is comparable to the world of Dibur, to the power, to the self-expression, to the mode of self-expression that we call speech. And there in that world, there's more of a possibility for creation, for separation, for us to experience separation. And then we have the final world, which is Asiya. Asiya is the world of action. There's an expression in the Tanakh where it says, Asasa Siparner, she did her nails. What do you mean you got your nails done? What do you mean you got your nails done? Your nails are done. Hashem made your nails. But that expression of having it done means we added a detail that gave it a finishing touch. And the world of Asiya, action, is where Hashem completes creation. And this is comparable to the mode of speech, to the self-expression that's called speech, because the self-expression that's called action, because action takes the idea outside of ourselves completely. In the world of Asiya, remember we learned this with our Neshama? We said our Neshama is in Atzilus, it's pre-creation. Then it's Bria, that's the beginning where the Neshama is born, so to speak. And then it's Yetzira, where the Neshama develops. it's further prepared for its journey down into this world. It develops specific identity, specific, I'll even say the word limitations, what it's going to, how it's going to be experienced in this world. And then in Asiya, in the world of Asiya, the neshama actually enters our physical bodies. Hashem blows it within us and it enters our physical bodies. And in this space, our neshama can and does experience itself as something separate from Hashem. And it's the same thing with all of creation. In Atzilus, creation doesn't exist at all. In Berea, in thought, there is that birth of creation. The German, and with that birth of creation comes the birth of the possibility for something to experience itself as separate from Hashem. In Dibur, there's more of that separation, and in Asiya, there's full-fledged, we experience ourselves as not ein oid movadai, but ein oid movadi, right? Not there's nothing but Hashem, but there's nothing but me. This is my world, this is my reality, this is everything revolves around me. We experience ourselves as separate entities from Hashem. So now, based on this, why are we taking this time why are we taking this time? Because it's fascinating. But where's the Alter Rebbe? Where's the Baal HaTanya going with this, connecting Bria to Machshava, Yetzira to Dibur, and Asiya to action? Why? Because now, based on this understanding, this insight, we can now appreciate the following teaching of the Gemara. The Gemara tells us that, and many of you are familiar with this idea, that on Shabbos, we are given a Neshama Yasera. Each of us, every single Jew, receives an additional Neshama. Let's read it in the words of the Gemara. Neshama Yasera, Noisen HaKadosh Baruch Hu Ba'adam Erev Shabbos. On Erev Shabbos, Hashem gives an additional Neshama to every single person. Ulematzei Shabbos, and on Matzei Shabbos, when Shabbos departs, Noitlin Isahimena, Hashem takes back, that neshama is removed from the person. And that's why we make Havdalah, that's why we experience a certain sadness on Matzei Shabbos, and that's why we say on Shabbos, Al Tira Avdi Yaakov, don't be afraid, because we experience a certain fear. Oh my, we suddenly feel that we're separate from Hashem. And so we say, no, don't worry, don't be afraid. We're still one with Hashem. It's only our experience of separation. But the truth is, we're always one with Hashem. So we experience extra spiritual energy on Shabbos. And this is the energy that we said before. What is the spiritual energy? It's the energy of the world of thought, of the world of machshava. Hashem is relating to the world in a way of machshava. Why is this energy called a Neshama Yasera? It could have been called, we get an extra light. We get the power of Hashem's thought. We become more intimate with Hashem on Shabbos. Why does the Gemara specifically use the word Neshama Yasera, an additional Neshama that we get on Shabbos, to describe the fact that we get an extra dose of spiritual consciousness on Shabbos? Why is the word Neshama used to express the extra consciousness that each of us experiences on Shabbos? And the answer is word number 9 in the notes. And that's why a Neshama Yasera is drawn down to each and every one of us on Shabbos. Dahainu me'olam habriya. It comes from the world of Bria, shehu olam haneshamas. Okay, let's backtrack for a second to explain this. First, I'm going to translate these words. This is why we receive an additional neshama on Shabbos. For Hashem is relating to us from the world of Bria, which is the world of neshamas. Where does the world of Bria come in, right? That's why we needed to know that machshava, thought, corresponds to the world of Bria. It is, and where does Bria come to neshama? Because it is explained in Sifrei Kabbalah that the world of Bria is also called the world of neshamas, because this is where neshamas are stationed before they come down to this world. This is like the station house the resting place of neshamas before they come down to this world. They're in Gan Eden Ha'elyon, in the world of Bria. That's where neshamas are stationed before they come down into this world. So Hashem relates to us in the world in the way of thought, right? This thought is parallel. This concept of Hashem relating to us, or the concept of thought, is parallel to the world of Bria, where creation is conceptualized, that initial thought of creation. And this world of creation corresponds to the world of souls, to the world of neshama, because this is the birthing station. This is where neshamas are born and kept, so to speak. And this also explains why we say, I mean, now not explains, but it's also connected to, we always say, Yisrael alu b'machshava. Yisrael arose in Hashem's thought. We exist in Hashem's thought. And that statement is an expression of the closeness and the inseparability, which is not a word, but the intimacy that we experience with Hashem. Yisrael olu b'machshava. We existed in Hashem's thought, and therefore Hashem created the world. But the creation of the world is an action. The thought is the Jewish people. And that's why our souls, that explains the oneness that we could experience with Hashem at any time. Like the rest of the world, Hashem relates to in a way of asiya, in a way of action, where there is a certain experience separation, and there is a certain experience of separation also on Hashem's part. But Yisrael, we exist in Hashem's thought, and we never ever leave Hashem's thought. That's where we're born, and that's where we live, in Hashem's thought. We arose in Hashem's thought. That means we have that, we just like, your thoughts and your mind are so one with you, they're inseparable from you. They're not even, there's no possibility. You and your thoughts are one. You're so connected. So too, we are one with Hashem. Okay, next week, Be'ezus Hashem, we'll explore this in greater, we'll take this further, but I want to just summarize, okay? And then we'll open to discussion, questions. So we started off saying Hashem created the world in 6 days, and Hashem rested on Shabbos, right? And we asked that very profound question for all of us who are familiar with perpetual creation, with this idea that Hashem created the world from nothing, and that there is perpetual creation. So how could it be that Hashem rests on Shabbos? Hashem can't rest even for 1 second, not even for a fraction of a second, never mind the whole 24-hour period. And we said that rest in this context means something else. Hashem is resting from relating to us in the way of action. The Baal HaTanya said the key word here is action. Ki sheishes yamim asa. For 6 days, Hashem did relate to us in a way of action. Uvayom hashvi shavas, and on the 7th day, Hashem rested and rests from this relating to us in a way of action. And Hashem relates to us in a way of thought, which we'll discuss next week, Emetz Hashem, or the next time we're together, that the whole world is elevated to a higher state of consciousness with Hashem. Because unlike fish that constantly are aware of their dependency on water, we as existed beings are not aware of our dependency on Hashem. We experience a separation between us and Hashem. We experience a sense of being alone and on our own. We experience ourselves as I got to manage on my own. I am by myself, with myself, for myself, right? We don't know the truth that we are by Hashem's power and with Hashem's constant presence and for a purpose that Hashem specifically designed for us, right? So because we don't have that awareness, we have ego. on Shabbos, Hashem relates to the world from a place of machshava, which opens the possibility, which it's like the possibility for a higher state of consciousness is on sale. Because really, that state of consciousness is available every day, but you have to work much harder to achieve it. The fact that Hashem relates to us in a way of machshava means that every single Shabbos, higher consciousness, greater consciousness, more awareness of Hashem's truth, and the ability to surrender to Hashem's truth, to let go of our ego, to walk away from being locked into our habits, into our limitations, into our thought patterns, into our own version of ourselves, to being locked into all our compulsions and whatever it is that we are mishigasin, we have the ability on Shabbos to walk away from that with greater ease and to embrace Hashem's truth with greater strength, because that's what Hashem is giving us on Shabbos. Hashem relates to us Kabbalistically, from that place of, in other words, what's the science of what's going on is not Kabbalistically, but the science of what happens on Shabbos is Hashem removes the barriers and with that opens the door for us to experience a higher state of consciousness of his truth and of our dependency on him and ultimately of our truth. Because throughout the week, we experience ourselves as separate. And that's fueled by the fact that Hashem creates and sustains the world in a way of asiyah, in a way of action. Hashem, it's like there's a curtain that conceals Hashem's truth. There's a curtain that conceals Hashem's truth and makes us feel alone, makes us feel separate, makes us feel as if, we're powered by our own self and we have a limited supply of love and power and goodness and dignity and resilience. It's all limited, right? And Hashem, on Shabbos, Hashem removes that curtain and enables us. We still have to invest effort. We still have to open the door. We still have to, step into the Shabbos consciously. But when we do, there is a higher state of consciousness, and we could much more easily lose that ego, lose our attachment to our limitations, and embrace the truth of our oneness with Hashem, of the fact that we are designed, defined, and powered by Hashem and inseparable from Hashem, fueled every single second, every single moment by no one other than Hashem himself. That's the energy of Shabbos. I'm going to read some questions, but I'm going to read the chat. But while I do, if anyone has questions, feel free to speak up. It's really just taking time to become aware. In other words, the ability for a higher level of consciousness is there. Now we have to just sometimes you peel a fruit and it peels. Try peeling a coconut. You need a hammer to peel a coconut. But when you peel or try peeling, even the difference between peeling a banana, which comes off so easily, or peeling a pineapple, or a watermelon, which you actually need a knife. So during the week, you need a knife to peel away the layers of Hashem's concealment. You need a kind of you really have to work harder. But on Shabbos, it's easy like a peel. You still have to remove the peel, but so it's to think about it and learn about Hashem on Shabbos. Learn Chassidus on Shabbos is just, it starts off the Shabbos in a whole new level of awareness. Absolutely. Every single existence, even a blade of grass, has godly energy. Every single part of creation, they say that every single blade of grass has an angel saying, grow, grow, There's somebody once translated, that there's 4 elements of creation, Domem, Tzomeach, Chai, and Medaber, right? Domem is often translated as inanimate, right? Inanimate means the minerals, the stones, where Tzomeach is the earth and the growing things, and Chai is animals and living things, and Medaber is a human being. And somebody once gave a translation in English of these 4 words to the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and they translated domain as inanimate. And the Rebbe crossed out the word inanimate and replaced it with silent. Because every single thing of creation has God's animation in it. It's just silent. And I thought that was so beautiful. Okay, ladies, have a wonderful, it's on Wednesday. We already start preparing for Shabbos in the davening. So we could already say good Shabbos. So I know that my Shabbos will be more elevated, and Hashem should bless us with the ultimate Shabbos with the coming of Mashiach. And I look forward to celebrating with you in person in the Beis HaMikdash, the ultimate Shabbos. Thank you so much for joining.